Welcome everybody to another episode of Fins Nation. I am your host Louis Sung, and today we're going to be discussing the Miami Dolphins running back situation again, but this time we're going to be talking about it a little bit differently than the way I've been talking about it all this time. As everybody is aware, I'm very much in favor of the Miami Dolphins signing veteran Dalvin Cook because I truly believe that he can offer something to this offense, especially with a team that's trying to run for a Super Bowl. However, I do believe that we have been hearing a lot of reports lately that are actually rather favorable when it comes to the Miami Dolphins running backs, particularly the ones they already have. Now, we know that Mike McDaniel recently came out and said that he would love to have Dalvin Cook because I think Mike McDaniel is a little superstar happy at this point. I mean, who wouldn't be? He's been spoiled with all these stars. He's been spoiled with having Jalen Waddle. He's been spoiled with Tyreek Hill. Tua Tagovailoa is coming into his own. He has superstars like Teron Armstead. He has superstars like Jalen Ramsey on defense, Xavier Howard, Javon Holland is coming into his own, Jalen Phillips is coming into his own. All of these guys have the potential to be true superstar players. Now, what I'm going to go ahead and talk about is regarding this other superstar player who's still outside looking in and trying to find a new home. Or maybe he's really not trying that hard to find a new home. We'll talk about all that in just one moment. But before that, really quick, just want to go ahead and mention that this show is brought to you, as always, by our good friends over at You Brake Wheel Fix. You Brake Wheel Fix is a complete automotive wheel solution. Ever parked too close to the sidewalk curb? You Brake Wheel Fix specializes in the repair of damaged wheels from bends, cracks, and curb rash. Or maybe your wheels are faded or peeling. You don't need to replace them, as You Brake Wheel Fix will refinish them to like new. Offering complete refinish options through powder coating, machining, and polishing, You Brake Wheel Fix is the answer to all of your wheel needs. And if you're just looking to give your ride a new look, You Brake Wheel Fix also offers many car customizing options such as new custom wheels and tires from your favorite brands, performance upgrades, window tinting, and suspension modifications. Located just south of Aventura, you can reach Mark and his staff at 305-748-0112 or online at youbrakewheelfix.com. They're really active on all social media platforms at You Brake Wheel Fix, so shoot them a DM on Instagram, Facebook, or Twitter and get an estimate in just minutes. So don't delay, go to You Brake Wheel Fix and start customizing your ride to show off your Dolphins fandom today. This show is also brought to you by PrizePicks.com. PrizePicks.com is the revolutionary fantasy platform where you can now pick up to 6 different players across professional sports leagues. Whether that's the NFL, the NBA, the MLB, one of each, it's up to you to decide. Just choose whether your chosen player will get more or less than their projected stat. They give you free squares, special Taco Tuesday promos, Flex Friday specials where you can get your money back if you lose, or multiply the amount of money you can normally win. So with offers like that, it's hard to justify not signing up if you are any kind of a fantasy sports fan. So use the promo code 5, that's FIVE, and they will match up to $100 on your initial deposit when you sign up. Again, spell that out. That's promo code 5, FIVE. Go to prizepicks.com, deposit your $100, and let PrizePicks give you $100 of their dollars for you to play with and get started winning today. Okay, so let's talk about this Miami Dolphins running back situation again, shall we? So in the case of Dalvin Cook, once again, I have always been in favor of signing somebody who can help this team, and I believe that Dalvin Cook can absolutely help this Miami Dolphins squad. But he doesn't seem to be in a big hurry to sign whatever contracts are currently out there for him. Already we've seen some of his constituents sign contracts. Just yesterday, Kareem Hunt signed officially with the New Orleans Saints after taking a brief detour to Indianapolis because supposedly they wanted to give him more money, but he chose the New Orleans Saints anyway, and now Kareem Hunt has a new home. There are other running backs who are getting looks now, and Dalvin Cook still does not seem like he's getting a whole lot of attention. I cannot imagine that it is simply because of his health, because his shoulder is presumably healed according to his agent, and again, I understand that it's his agent, so he has to say stuff like that, but Dalvin Cook has shown that he still has a lot to offer. He still has a lot of gas left in the tank. You would think some team out there would at least make an offer to Dalvin Cook and say, listen, why don't you come to our team and let's see if we can win a Super Bowl together, as opposed to other teams going and saying, well, let's try some of these cheaper veterans like a Kareem Hunt instead. But no, they just seem particularly content to just go with guys like Kareem Hunt, or there are other running backs out there that are getting deals. Dalvin Cook does not seem to be getting a whole lot of chatter. The favorites to sign him are still the Miami Dolphins after all this time. There was this brief fling with the New York Jets. That's the only visit that I can remember that Dalvin Cook has taken so far, and he left without a contract, and he does not seem to be even remotely interested in signing with the New York Jets. Now, I know that we're not supposed to take the word of Nick Hicks as law. For anybody who is not aware, Nick Hicks is the trainer for Dalvin Cook. He is also Tua Tagovailoa's off-season trainer. So there is a lot of connection there. But with that being said, we have always heard him talk about Dalvin Cook over the past several months and how he wants to play in Miami, that he's been told that Dalvin wants to play in Miami. He was told this by Dalvin himself, presumably. And so we've been thinking, oh, well, it's just a done deal. It's just a matter of Dalvin Cook putting the pen to paper, and he'll be a Miami Dolphin in 2023. But so far, that has not been the case. We have looked at this situation all this time, and Dalvin Cook is not any closer to signing a contract with the Dolphins than he was 3 months ago. And so now we have to have this discussion. Has the window closed for Dalvin Cook to sign with the Miami Dolphins? And the reason I say this is because of the reports that we are hearing from training camp. Raheem Mostert is obviously going to be the starter, at least starting out in week 1. He's the one who is the most, shall we say, experienced in this offense. He spent more time in Miami with Mike McDaniel with this version of the offense. Jeff Wilson has spent time in a version of the offense with San Francisco, so is Mostert. But Raheem Mostert obviously has the edge because he has spent more time in it, and he was also the more productive of the two during their first year with the Miami Dolphins. And I'm perfectly good with that. I think Raheem Mostert has everything in him that he needs to become a 1,000-yard rusher. He was almost there last season. If they had run the ball a little bit more, I am still convinced that Raheem Mostert would have run for 1,000 yards. And maybe if he had, we wouldn't even be having this discussion about Dalvin Cook. Maybe we would just be content to sit there and let Raheem Mostert do his thing. But that's not what we're talking about here. The reason that all of these reports are coming out, the reason that we're looking at this Dalvin Cook situation and saying that the window might be closing for him, it is because of De'Von Achane. And De'Von Achane, while he started out a little bit slow in training camp, the reports are starting to come out more and more and more favorable that he is just absolutely proving himself the way that everybody was hoping that he would. My good friend Ron Caniff, the co-host of Pulse of Fins Nation, every once in a while he pops on this show as a guest commentator, but let me tell you something, he, more than anybody else, he was on this De'Von Achane thing long before. As soon as he was drafted, he basically looked at De'Von Achane and said, you know what? This is going to be the guy. By mid-season, he is going to be the starting running back, and he's going to be getting the lion's share of the snaps. Ron has said this several times on both shows, and he is not in favor of signing Dalvin Cook specifically for that reason. He does not think there is a need to sign Dalvin Cook. He does not think there should be any urgency to sign Dalvin Cook. And looks like he's starting to be proven right. I still want Dalvin Cook, but it's getting harder and harder and harder for me to justify making the move when you're seeing all of these amazing things from De'Von Achane in practice. Let me just go ahead and give you a quick quote here from one Jalen Waddle, who spoke about this on July 8th, right after the first preseason practice with the Atlanta Falcons. He was asked what exactly he's seen from De'Von Achane. What has he noticed about him ever since everything got started? And what he said was, this is Jalen Waddle speaking, quote, "Oh man, he can cut on a dime. He's very hard to get down. His balance is crazy. He had a crazy run today. I was like, he's going to be one of them ones." Now, all slang aside, what Jalen Waddle is basically saying is that De'Von Achane is showing up in training camp as of late. These two practices, these joint practices with the Atlanta Falcons leading up to their preseason game on Friday, I got to tell you guys, this has been just incredible to look at the 3 yards per carry notes. Alfredo Arteaga, who continues to be the eyes on the ground for the 5 Reasons Sports Network, he has been going play by play, talking about exactly what it is that De'Von Achane is accomplishing. And what you really need to understand here is that this is possibly one of the most incredible things that we've seen from a Miami Dolphins rookie running back ever since the likes of Ronnie Brown at this point. Take a look at some of the things that he put as his notes. And Travis Wingfield observed the same thing. So De'Von Achane today caught a 40-yard touchdown catch from Skylar Thompson. It was a small window. It was a diving catch. It was a very difficult play to pull off, and yet he was able to pull it off. And some things like that, those are the things that get you noticed. Those are the things that get you upgrades on the depth chart, even though the depth chart, as Mike McDaniel himself has pointed it out, it doesn't really mean a whole lot. But making those kinds of plays do get you noticed by your coaches, and that means that you are going to get more playing time once the season starts. But it's not just his playmaking that's getting him noticed. He's actually showing up as a pass blocker. And once again, I have to point this out. One of the things that Alfredo Arteaga pointed out about Dalvin Cook is that what he would bring to the team more than anything is the ability to pass block. Dalvin Cook's pass blocking is stellar. Now, I'm not saying that De'Von Achane is on the same level as Dalvin Cook, but De'Von Achane has proven so far that he has what it takes to get the job done if he is properly coached, because he's already done it a little bit. I go ahead and I present to you a new quote. This one from Mike White. He was talking about De'Von Achane on July 8th. Once again, the same first practice against the Atlanta Falcons as the joint practices begin. He said, and I quote, "Yeah, I think he's very talented," speaking of De'Von Achane. "I think you can see that from day one when he got here after rookie minicamp. He's athletically very gifted, and I think he's starting to really learn the nuances of the program. Like you said, the pass pro and running between the tackles, he's not just a gadgety speed guy. He can pick up a protection, and that fires you up because that makes you want to get him the ball more as a quarterback. It's a very selfless job picking up a linebacker full steam, so it's a lot of fun to play with him. It's a lot of fun to watch them grow. Now, he's got a long way to go, as we all do. I'm not trying to give him his flowers yet, but the progression that you've seen from him is really cool." So now De'Von Achane has proven 3 things. 1, he can run between the tackles. 2, he has the ability to pass block. And 3, he is a good weapon outside of the backfield making catches. So that's 3 things that you expected him to do. But now you're probably wondering, okay, well, that's all fine and dandy, but what are you going to do when he has to have some power in his game? What is he going to do when it's 4th and 1 and you've got the entire defensive line scrunched up in the middle waiting to stop him, and the Miami Dolphins offensive line can't seem to get any run blocking push, which, by the way, continues to be a criticism of this line. They're not getting any push in the run game. Their protection is decent. Their protection is competent. Their pass protection is serviceable. It will get the job done, provided it doesn't face anything that's overly taxing in a way. But that does mean that De'Von Achane is unlikely to get a whole lot of help from guys that are not named Robert Hunt or Teron Armstead or Connor Williams. Now, I get it, that's 3 out of 5, but still, you need a whole good offensive line to really be able to have a dominant run game. I digress. What are you going to do when De'Von Achane needs to actually run over a dude and get that last yard? Well, as it turns out, even at 197 pounds, which I believe I saw reported that is currently what he weighs, De'Von Achane still has what it takes to run over some safeties, which he actually did in practice. And there's literally video evidence of this. I can't show it to you guys or point you where it is because there are certain rules that are against that sort of thing. I'm not allowed to do stuff like that. But feel free to look for it of your own accord because I think it would be fascinating for you guys to be able to see that. De'Von Achane seems to be the whole package already as a rookie, and there is still so much room for him to continue to develop his game. I am honestly even more excited about De'Von Achane now than I was just a month ago. I still am holding out hopes that Dalvin Cook will decide that, you know what, maybe it would be in my best interest to join the Dolphins. At the very least, I will be on a team, I will be able to get some money, and I will be able to go ahead and contribute to what could be a Super Bowl run, and then I can try to get paid maybe the next season. That's what I would hope Dalvin Cook would look at the situation and say, okay, fine, I'll take the smaller contract just so that I can actually get on a football field. But it looks like to me Dalvin Cook is very content to just sit back, make his $2 million, and wait and see what happens until training camp and maybe even the preseason is over. Maybe he's waiting for somebody's bell cow back to end up getting hurt, and that will be his opening to join a team. Maybe he's looking at the New York Giants. Maybe he's eyeballing Saquon Barkley. Maybe he's looking at the Indianapolis Colts. They're still having their feud with Jonathan Taylor. Maybe Dalvin Cook is looking at Indianapolis and saying, okay, I'll just bide my time, and maybe I can become the superstar running back for the Indianapolis Colts after Jonathan Taylor leaves. Maybe he's doing that. But if he still wants to play in Miami, which we've still heard reports that he wants to play in Miami, those reports have not stopped. They've slowed, they've quieted. All things Dalvin Cook related have seriously quieted as of late. But if he still wants to join the Dolphins, he's losing more and more time. He's losing more and more money, to be perfectly honest, the longer that he waits. Because the more De'Von Achane shows up and does all these things that he's doing, then the less and less it's going to look like the Dolphins actually need him, and the Dolphins will be able to save that money that they would pay Dalvin Cook to actually give some other players, maybe finally Connor Williams or Christian Wilkins, that much-needed extension. Because make no mistake, that money still has to go somewhere, and it will go somewhere. Per over the cap, the Miami Dolphins currently have approximately $13 million in cap space. Just a little bit over that, but it is still a lot of money that they can use to sign the likes of Christian Wilkins to his contract. He's currently making $10 million against the cap this season. They could potentially extend him. They could make his cap space for this year smaller, so that way he would be able to roll over more cash, and that would be cash that they would be paying him, which I would be perfectly fine with. They could potentially give some money to Connor Williams if they want to keep him around, which I would hope that they want to keep him around, because that would be a very wise move on their part to actually keep him for long term. So not paying Dalvin Cook. Let's hypothetically speak here. Let's say the Dolphins offered Dalvin Cook a $4 million contract. That would mean that the Dolphins will be down to, and again, all of this is very general terms, the way that it's structured, the way that it would be actually written, it would be very different, and it would have a very different impact on the cap. So I'm speaking in very, very general terms here. But the Dolphins give up $4 million out of the $13 million. That leaves them with $9 million in cap space. You all know basic arithmetic. You don't need me to tell you this. Less money to give the likes of Christian Wilkins and Connor Williams means less money that they will be able to use to keep the players that they actually need long term. They need to pay Tyreek Hill long term. They need to pay Tua Tagovailoa long term. Tua's going to need an extension at some point. Teron Armstead is getting paid. We're going to have to actually give an extension to Connor Williams. Bradley Chubb is coming up in the next season or two. You're going to need to pay Jalen Ramsey. He's going to be coming up in the next season or two. They're going to be getting a lot of cash, and they're going to have a whole lot of money tied up in it. As a matter of fact, just right now, as of this moment, if you look up 2024 on Over the Cap, the Miami Dolphins are actually in the red nearly $32.5 million. And that is with a lot of players off of their contracts. Where are the Dolphins going to get that money? They have to get it from somewhere. So you have to look at this and say, all right, well, they may have to part ways with Emmanuel Ogbah. They may have to part ways with Jerome Baker. They may have to find a way to finally trade Cedric Wilson Jr. or to cut him altogether, because now in 2024, that would be the season that you could afford to cut him. But even if you do all of that, let's do some basic arithmetic again. Let's say that Emmanuel Ogbah, let's round it up to $14 million. Okay, cool. Let's round up Jerome Baker to $10 million. Okay, cool. So that makes it so that you have $24 million in cap savings by cutting both of those guys. And then you decide, let's round it down because we're closer that way. Let's say you're going to go ahead and you're going to cut Cedric Wilson. That's fine, but that would mean that you are still down at least $1 million in cap space. You still need to find more money that you can get rid of. You need to find more players that you can part ways with. You could cut Jason Sanders. He's going to be in 2024. If you cut him early, you save $3.3 million, and you only have about $800,000 in dead cap. And if Jason Sanders continues to struggle, the Dolphins may decide they want to bring in a different kicker at this point. So there are options for the Dolphins if they really, really want to do this. But you understand that picking up Dalvin Cook, this is very much a short-term move. And I think that Chris Greer and Brandon Shore want to play the long game when it comes to this team. They have made a lot of decisions that are very top-heavy. They have a lot of superstars that they are counting on to help push them to the Super Bowl. But when the going gets tough in this money thing, and this is why we have to say the cap is real, yes, you can work around it, yes, you can manipulate it, but at the end of the day, you are going to have to pay the piper at some point. So a lot of players, a lot of teams have lost a lot of really good players because they could not afford to keep all of them. They had to part ways with some of these guys. Look at the Los Angeles Rams, perfect example. They won one Super Bowl. Jalen Ramsey was part of that team, and now they had to get rid of a whole bunch of talent because they just could not afford to keep everybody. You can't afford to do that long time. So the Miami Dolphins are trying to avoid that much pain in the future. They don't want to have to get rid of so many of their core players that the team is going to be suddenly weakened to the point where they are not able to compete anymore. The Rams were not a good football team last season, just as a reminder to everybody. And that was shortly after they were a Super Bowl winning football team. And they went from that kind of good team to one of the worst teams in football. That's how quickly things can turn around for you. Look at the New England Patriots. They lost Tom Brady, and all of a sudden, all of their magic, all of their mystique, it just vanished into the ether. That is how fast a team can fall apart if you lose one of your core players. Tom Brady was the core player for the New England Patriots for years. They didn't keep him. He went to Tampa Bay. Buccaneers win a Super Bowl. As annoying as it is, that just goes to show you the power of having a superstar quarterback on your football team. And that goes for any kind of a superstar player. You lose your core players and your team is not the same. You have to find a way to replace what has been lost. And finding players like that is not easy. So has the window closed for Dalvin Cook at this point? If it hasn't already, I would say that within the next week or so, the window, in my opinion, might as well be closed. Now, obviously, things can change. An injury can happen to maybe Raheem Mostert. Maybe something might happen to Jeff Wilson. We did have a brief scare not too long ago. Maybe De'Von Achane suddenly starts to fall off a little bit. Maybe something happens to him, and that'll be the opening that Dalvin Cook needs to come back to Miami, and the Dolphins won't have a choice but to give him the money that he's looking for. At least I believe that is what he's waiting for, is to get somebody to actually pay him the amount of money that he would be getting from the Minnesota Vikings. I don't think that's going to happen. I truly do not. I'm very interested in seeing what Kareem Hunt is actually going to be playing for. But if that doesn't happen the way that Dalvin Cook wants it to, let's say they don't get hurt, then I feel like at this point he's going to either have to take the offer that the Dolphins gave him, or he's just going to have to wait until like mid-season, because either somebody's going to get hurt and they're going to be desperate, or he's just going to have to wait and see what happens, because the Dolphins do not need him if these reports continue. De'Von Achane is making plays. He's doing everything that you would want your star running back to do. And I'm not going to give him the superstar title just yet. I'm not even going to give him the star title just yet. We have not seen him actually play a down of NFL football just yet. But all these reports coming out of training camp, they just point to the fact that De'Von Achane is going to be something special, and all the players seem to already be seeing it as well. And when your teammates can go out there and say that not only are you improving, but you're flashing, you're incredible, you're impressing them on the field as it happens. For all the talk that they do to supporting their teammates, Noah Igbenogany never got that kind of praise from his teammates. De'Von Achane is getting the likes of, he's one of them guys. He's an incredible player. He's an up-and-comer, and it's fun to watch him do what he does. Those are words that were never used to describe the likes of Igbenogany on defense. But De'Von Achane is getting them very early on in his Dolphins career, and I think that he is going to be the reason that Dalvin Cook will not be a Miami Dolphin as much as we all hoped he would. That's going to be it for this show. Thank you all so much for listening. If you haven't already done so, make sure you're checking out You Break Wheel Fix. You can reach out to them at 305-748-0112 or online at youbreakwheelfix.com. And of course, go to prizepicks.com, use the promo code 5, that's FIVE, and they will match up to $100 on your initial deposit when you sign up. Again, that's promo code 5, FIVE. Go to prizepicks.com, deposit your $100, and let them give you $100 of their dollars for you to play with. That's all for me, and we will see you all tomorrow for another episode of Fins Nation.